No, you call. Oh, hi,
No.
Don. Uh,
Well, okay.
yes.
No, I'm sorry for being late. Of course, I was trying to find some equipment. I lost some equipment.
Well,
So,
we're not getting any younger, and this things happen, Don. It's nothing to be ashamed about. Looking very short here. I'm going to do this. Let's see if I.
yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
Perfect. So our heads are at the same level.
Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I pivoted. I'm on the other side of the room.
Pivot. I liked your pivot.
But because the window is now, instead of behind me, the window is to my right, there's still a little glare on
No,
my
I think you're
head, but it's
good.
not
I
as
think you're
bad.
good. I'm kind of
Well,
liking this.
let's just say there's always a light on me, but
Is it something like being lit up, or is that me?
no, like,
Oh.
I tend to be in the spotlight.
Anyway,
Anyway,
anyway, I'm gonna just so you know, I'm gonna be doing a little bit of this. I'm gonna be doing a little bit of pointing when I'm mentioning things.
but it's not like reprimanding me.
No, it's gonna be pointing because I'm going to try. We're gonna try something a little different this week,
Okay.
and part of my pointing is gonna be a little thing that we do in post. That's how we
In
do
post
this.
production.
In post, we're gonna impose some things. So when I go like this, there's gonna be a little sound effect and a little
Oh.
something. So with our little announcement, which I haven't talked to you about yet.
Well, Don, if you want sound effects, I can give you sound effects.
Are you a little gassy? What's going on? I'm gonna keep doing this when we record, going because sometimes we have some good stuff that I could use.
Sometimes.
Yes, Gary, you're the most talented. I don't know how we got through the show without you
Don't
being
be so pouty. Pouty Patty.
Patty Patty. So, so are we good? I'm gonna just stop it and then start again, and then
Yeah,
we'll
sure.
just.
I'm good.
Okay. So, and I don't know how this is gonna go. So we'll edit it in post.
That's what the kids are saying.
Hi, Gary.
Hey, Don.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, spring has sprung, our sprockets have sprouted, and we're switching things up a little bit to start with the intro. What do you think?
I think that's very fresh and nice. I mean, we in spring?
Yes, I'm in spring because it's beautiful here. What's it like over in the
Oh my
city?
God, it's gorgeous today. I was
Yes.
out today, out and about. Beautiful, blue sky,
Okay.
nice. Yeah.
Good. So our sprockets have sprung. It's spring and sprunging, and everything's springing.
Yes.
So, okay, so this week our episode titled "The Elusive Queer Space slash Bar None." We'll figure out what we want to really call it. We dive into what we used to call a bar. And in recent years, there's been a strange thing happening with bars, is that not just gay spaces, but bars in general are disappearing.
Right.
So what we're going to discuss this week is the possible and probable reasons for the decline and closings. Gary, you're going to share an article from a lady called Ana de Almeida Amaral, covered by the Bay Area KQED, right? You're going to share us that story.
That's correct. It's about a lesbian bar that's as old as you.
I'm going to share an article from Eater magazine on what bars are actually thriving and why. And then we're going to have a little memorial to some of the bars that actually have left us and are no longer in existence in both San Francisco and LA.
Okay.
And then a very special announcement at the end that you have to wait for. And it's going to be something with this. So I'm going to be doing a lot of this, and you'll see what that means.
And for our listeners, this refers to Don pointing up in the air, straight up. See what you're missing when you're not watching us on YouTube? So you can listen, but watch
Yes.
and learn.
And learn. And then, so we'll be right back. Thanks. You get out of my way.
Don. Welcome back. This is Don and Gary doing 60. That would make me, Gary, and you, Don.
Point up, point up.
Point up. Where we unwrap and unpack navigating life at this age.
Yes, well done.
And the hint is, with the title Don and Gary doing 60, it's over 60. You can find us on various podcasts wherever you pod, including Apple and Spotify. You can find us on YouTube. Yay. If you care to venture to one of the new platforms, Blue Sky. I've not gone there yet, but we're on Blue Sky. Also, if you want to email us, it's Don and Gary doin60@gmail.com. And Don, you have a new something?
Yes, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to point to it because we actually have a great announcement at the end of the podcast that we want to share with you, but I've kind of given it away probably with my graphics. So let you know that we're excited about what's coming at the end. So we're going to share with you some information about how you can actually participate more with the podcast, and I'll leave that to the very end of it. Yeah.
Can't wait.
I can't wait. So so Gary, just how did we talk about this? So when we came up with this topic, actually, you sent me something.
So I think you and I are both always looking for topics, conversation starters, and on social media, I came across an article. There was a story that was covered by local PBS station KQED here in San Francisco, and it was covering a lesbian bar that is 62 or 63 years old.
Wow, you really weren't kidding.
And it's called the Wild Side West.
Yes.
So quick history. This particular bar actually opened in Oakland, California, across the bay. But after a short time, and it was called the Wild Side. Mm-hmm. But then when they moved to San Francisco, they went to the North Beach district, which is the Italian district here in San Francisco. And because we are west of Oakland, we were then called the Wild Side West. And then in the early 70s, it moved to Bernal Heights, another neighborhood here in San Francisco. Oh. And so they featured one of its longtime patrons. Her name is, I hope I pronounced this right, Timotha Doin. She's an 80-year-old lesbian who's been a regular at the bar since she was 24. Wow. So she's, been there a few times. So it's just a nice story of how this bar, even though it's moved a couple times, is managed to survive, not without its challenges, of course, and folks who at the time were not very accepting of an LGBTQ.
It's easier when you say it fast.
Right. An bar. Yeah. Or any establishment or any business, right? But what's interesting is the article starts by saying that San Francisco has long been an epicenter for lesbian life and culture, even back in the 1930s. They said spots like Mona's 440 Club were known as hubs for lesbians. But in the past 30 years, the number of lesbian bars all over the country have seen a steep decline. And I did share with you previously in another podcast how it would have been in the late 40s or early 50s. My father, who's born in San Francisco, when he'd go out with his friends and they'd have the girlfriends go with them, they'd go bars and hang out, of course, a lot of times in the Mission. But my dad was always a prankster, so he decided, hey guys, wouldn't it be fun to take the girls to a new place? And he knew of a lesbian bar in North Beach, in the North Beach district, the Italian district. So they didn't tell the ladies. I don't know how many of the guys had dates, but they didn't tell the ladies. They just went to the bar, sat down, and then one of the ladies needed to go to the restroom. And when she got back, she said she felt very uncomfortable because as she walked across the room, she felt all the women's eyes were on her. It felt very uncomfortable. And my dad, who's the worst joke teller, worst prankster, by the time she got back, he could not contain himself. He has no poker face. Yeah. And he just started busting up laughing. He thought it was hysterical that they played this prank on their dates and took him to a lesbian bar. Yeah. So look at my dad hanging out at a lesbian bar.
Right. He's very progressive.
In the 40s or 50s.
Right.
But and they don't really give a reason why specifically the lesbian bars are having a steep decline.
Well, it's interesting because this is where we wanted to go with this, right? Because I think the impetus of this whole segment or this whole episode was that you sent me that, and I got really intrigued by it because I've heard this recently a great deal of places where of all the let's just call them queer spaces because that's what the kids are calling them right now as opposed to a gay bar. Queer space is basically a bar. A gay bar. There's been a huge decline in the number of women's spaces available, and it's now down to less than 30 in the entire country. Right. Yes, so that was interesting because I kind of the lead into that was this story. So thank you for sharing that too. But I kind of wanted to dig into it because you and I have done our share of bar hopping, and we've gone out to
Guilty.
bars. Yes, I know. So we went to a lot in the Bay Area when we both lived in San Francisco, when I lived in San Francisco. So we've
Yes.
been to a lot of places, but I also was noticing how a lot of these bars have shut down. I wanted to dive into with you the reasons why, and there's many reasons why. But basically, I also heard Trixie Mattel, who's a very famous drag queen on the internet and socials, had recently closed her bar that she purchased in Wisconsin. She's from Wisconsin, and this was one of the first bars that they ever went to, or she ever went to, and she met her first boyfriend there and all this stuff. But they recently, within the last, I would say, month, had to also close down their bar. And, it was an institution in Wisconsin, a huge watering hole of what people had known for many, many years. I think it also been there for more than 30 years in itself. So it's kind of a trend that's coming up.
Did they give a reason why that particular one
Yeah,
closed?
there were a couple reasons posted. One of them was that there was some huge amount of construction going on in the front of the building on the sidewalk, and that had detracted from the foot traffic. But of course, COVID, which one of the main reasons for a lot of places, not just straight or gay or anything, but a lot of places, COVID had closed down a lot of restaurants and entertainment spots, and they never bounced back from them. There's quite a few reasons about what we think probably the reasons that these places are closing down. Not just gay spaces, but bars in general and going out. And one of the things is that we were seeing is like in the 80s and 90s, when we went out, there weren't cell phones, right?
Right. Right.
So, now you just pick up your phone and like texting, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be there. I texted you earlier saying, I'm having a little trouble, I'll be late.
Yeah. Right.
We didn't have that lovely convenience. I know,
Right.
I know children, it's hard to believe that the world existed without a cell phone, but it did.
Before
Right.
cell phones and before apps.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, part of I saw some of the very commonalities with the article that you sent me and the one that I was sourcing. A lot of things have shifted in generationally in the way people socialize and don't socialize. And one of the big things you mentioned, apps. So with apps like there's Grindr, there's Sniffies, and they're like texting to private parties now. So part of one of the reasons that we went to go to bars was to have a couple of snootfuls of margaritas, and then there were 2-for-1 margaritas or 2-for-1 drinks at where was it? Midnight Sun would always have like 2-for-1. So of course you'd order like 4 and
Or at the cafe where we knew the bartender, we'd get free drinks.
Yes, and
From
you knew.
Lisa or Lewis.
Yes, I know you had a thing for Lewis at the time too. But if you take a look at it, apps are actually one of the main reasons that are being accounted for the dwindling numbers of people going to bars right now, because people don't need to go to a bar to meet up or hook up.
Right.
So,
Right.
so one of the reasons, of course, you wanted to meet boys or girls when you went to the bars. And that was part of the social side of it. Apps has definitely had an effect on it when it comes to being social, because again, the kids just text each other or get on an app and find, either the boy or girl of their choice, and they don't even have to bother with a bar.
Right.
So that was one thing.
What about age? Because I'm thinking I'll just talk about me. As I got older, I started going less and less. And I can tell you that,
Yeah.
now granted, because a lot of my friends moved away, my social interaction has shifted in other areas, right? Whereas before we used to, I guess Friday night, let's go meet at the bar, have a drink, and then maybe go grab dinner after. That was kind of our
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
But I had to think hard about the last time I actually went into a bar in the
Me too.
Castro.
Me
And it
too.
was September of last year. And it was because a friend was visiting and we went to one of our old haunts.
Yeah, that is absolutely part of it, because I think if you think about it generationally, you and I are of a certain age, and we had those traditional locations that we'd go to in the Castro. We always
Right.
went to Badlands, we went to Midnight Sun, we'd go to
The cafe.
Cafe, the Lookout,
The
all those
Lookout.
places. Yeah, so I think these kids don't have that, since so many of them have closed. They don't have that traditional location, like let's go meet up at, because it was always Midnight Sun for us. Like let's just go to Midnight Sun,
Right.
always that thing. The new generations don't really have that, because there's been a lot of closures, but also the apps are taking them out of that. So they don't have to meet up necessarily at a bar.
Like I said, the other thing related to age is that what I experienced, as we got older, rather than all meet up at the bar, we would meet at someone's house and have
Yeah.
dinner, and that would be the evening. So you might be drinking wine or cocktails at the house, but you're not in the bar scene. You're just in a smaller group,
Yeah.
more intimate, and it's at someone's home over a meal and cocktails. So you just shifted thing. So that's another reason why you'd see less people, I think, going out.
Right. And also as a, an older citizen now, one of the things we could easily blame the decline of people attending bars is that kids don't know how to talk to each other anymore. Because if you think about the kids that were brought up in the 80s, let's say, how many times do you see a parent handing a kid an iPad? And how many people do you see buried in their phones all the time now?
Oh yeah, wherever you go.
Who
Everyone's
don't
on their phone.
even, and then there's also the fact that social anxiety caused from not having that interaction or the ability to communicate easily. I'm not saying everybody, but there could be some social anxiety involved with going to a bar. Because if you're going by yourself, you hang out and you don't have anybody to talk to. It's like, I've done it before. You've done it before. We've all gone on our own before. But it's a lot easier when you go with a friend.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I think also there might be a challenge with these new generations to actually be able to communicate with one another too easily.
Right.
Because they're
Yeah.
so busy. And I'm not saying that's the thing. I'm not trying to sound like an oldie moldy about this kind of thing, but I think it could be very much that. And also, if you think about it, a lot of these bars that are doing well, and I can talk about the couple that are thriving right now, actually have a lot of very live entertainment going on. So most times a drag show, a band, some are serving food. Well, the
But
thing
they
is,
used to be like back in the 80s, they would have Dynasty Night or whatever
yes,
show was popular
yes,
at the time.
yes.
They would feature that. I was there about a year ago, a year and a half ago, and we went in on a night where they were showing Drag Race.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
So if they have a popular show, that's one way to attract people. And it was pretty full.
Sure.
And
Well,
it was probably a Thursday night, so it wasn't the weekend, but they're probably one of the few that still have a pretty decent crowd when you walk or drive by.
because they're running those videos all the time. And remember, the ones we were seeing all the time were designing women and, what was it, In Living Color and all these things, those shows from the 90s, the 80s and 90s. So, yeah, I think that's definitely something that's kind of missing. So the kids need this huge draw to keep them entertained, which is basically, and I'm not trying to be oldie moldy about it again, but it's like they need a lot of stimulation or a host by say a drag queen or someone hosting it that makes it very lively for them. So I think, they need a lot of that to go. Because, yes, you can go to Midnight Sun and you can have a drink and go by yourself and just watch some videos and not have to talk to anybody. But eventually you probably will, right? Because we always did. You would spill drinks in people's faces. I remember that story.
Well, okay, I spit up on someone, but it was an accident. It's your friend's fault, but we're not going to get into it. I did mention to you, though, some of the names of the places here in San Francisco that we mentioned that we went to back in our youth. A lot of them are still open, but what I've noticed recently, again, I don't go to them very often. It's been a while, but if a friend of mine lives in the area, so if I'm on my way home, driving through or walking past some of those places, you peek in, you just don't see the crowds that you used to. I was shocked one night. It was a Friday night, and I was parked nearby, so I had to walk past one bar that it was one that we went to that used to be popular with lines out the door.
Yeah.
And you could actually see all the way to the back. It was just, I don't know what was going on.
Which place was that?
It was Badlands.
Oh my God. Do you remember Badlands Sundays? Oh my gosh.
Right.
That was crazy.
So how they're managing to stay open. I know that Badlands was hit hard during the pandemic, like many places that shut down, but that one took a lot longer for it to reopen, and we didn't think it would ever reopen because it was closed way longer, way past all the others. And it finally did open, but now the few times I go by, it's like you don't see the crowds, you don't see a line out the door.
Well, another thing that's come up that didn't happen to us when we were all going out was the legalization of marijuana and the popularity of edibles.
Right.
And if you think about it, a lot of these kids like to talk about being sober, which is a good thing. And I think for a lot of these kids, a lot of them don't appreciate or enjoy alcohol because A, it's not good for you. There's a matter of health and mental health about using that. Edibles are so popular right now. And also, if you think about tied into that is the cost of a drink. When we were going out, 2-for-1s, it cost like, I don't even remember. What do you think? It cost like $10 for 2 drinks or something?
Probably, yeah, if that, yeah.
And you ordered like 4 at a time, so you could balance them everywhere and take them. But now you could literally go, and I'm sure you've seen this too, because we could talk about how this is spread to dining establishments, is the cost of a cocktail.
Yeah.
A decent martini, and I'm sure you've had 1 or 2 of those, allegedly, can cost you $25-30 for a martini, one. if you go to the right places.
Well, I guess I don't go to the right place. I never pay that much. I still like them dirty. Another thing, and this won't keep people away from the bars, but it's maybe a switch to try and get people back that don't want to have alcohol, is they offer mocktails.
True that.
So that could be one way of still trying to get people to come and like, look, you don't have to have a beer. You don't have to have hard liquor. Here is still a pretty drink with a flower and fruit in it. There's no alcohol, right? So they can still feel like they're, being entertained and having a good time and hanging out with their friends. You could have a alcohol drink and I can have a non-alcohol drink. So.
Yeah, and I think, what's also, and I've been reading about this because I'm looking at statistics and different editorial pieces on this whole phenomenon that's taking place, is that drinking is no longer a badge of maturity for people.
Oh, okay.
It's like something where they think, I don't have to, I'm 21, I don't have to go get loaded when I turn 21 and go drinking. So it's not as socially, a pressure on people to go and get drunk when they're 21.
Because that was the thing when you're younger, right? As soon as
you're
21,
you're out.
You didn't walk, you ran to that.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of people that are actually, we talked about, the stigma of alcohol in general sometimes is not a great thing. And a lot of these new generational kids don't really want to drink. They just don't like it. They don't like the after effects of it. They don't know, maybe they don't even like the taste of it. I've heard people, they don't like the taste of alcohol. And it's just not something for them. Another thing that I've been reading too is that, and hearing and on social media and everything, is that the LGBTQ plus kids don't need to go to a gay or queer establishment. They like going to any place. And I think, recently we've had a few steps back, obviously, with the new administration. But previously, there's been a huge amount of acceptance for the gay and LGBTQ plus community out there. So, people can go wherever they want and not really feel the stigma or the pressure of being scrutinized for being that. Open spaces or, spaces have opened up. And now I'm generalizing by calling spaces bars. Sure. Because basically they're called spaces now.
Right.
It's not something where kids are feeling uncomfortable. We'll see, hopefully that continues. I hope that there is no pressure put on the LGBTQ plus community to not feel comfortable. But I'm just noticing that in the last few years prior to, as I said, this administration, we've been able to enjoy any places. I feel comfortable going anywhere. I'm sure you do too, right?
Yeah, right.
So it used to be, there at a time, and even before we started, back in the maybe 70s and 80s, there was a huge stigma on being gay or even going to a gay club or a queer space. So now I think that's that veil's been lifted a lot with, so much visibility to the community in movies and television, social media. Everyone, it's been very much accepted for the time being, which I think is another good thing. The other thing, and we talked about cost, and jump in here with me if you feel or if you want to, but the problem is with a lot of these places, and I guess even the Castro is a good example, as is West Hollywood, which we went a couple times. I know there's a bad story behind that, so we'll share that another time. We'll put it in the notes in the blog. One time Gary and I went out in West Hollywood and I forgot him and I went out and talked to somebody and they left him alone in front of the apartment for 3 hours or something. So yeah, we'll let it go. Yeah, you don't remember that though, do you, Gary?
Let's move on, Don.
Okay, so we talked about the Castro, and I can talk a little bit about West Hollywood, or WeHo as we call it over there. But it is a lot of these old institutions have paid rent, and now the rents have gone through the roof.
Yeah.
So keeping a business open is not easy, which is why you see the cost reflected in drinks and food. Sure. So costs have gone up exponentially as a result of landlords increasing the amount of money they want for these spaces to remain open.
Right. No, I'm cost, and I know I keep going back to the pandemic, but that took such some of the businesses took such a hit.
Yeah.
That they couldn't recover. Just take a slight right turn. There's a Mexican restaurant in another part of San Francisco that is family owned. It's been there since the 60s, called Tommy's. I used to live
Not the one above your old apartment.
Yes.
Oh no.
No, they're still open, but it's still family run.
Okay.
But I went there with some friends about a month ago, and they said that business never really came back after the pandemic. So there used to be lunch, dinner every day of the week, So you'd stay and have drinks and so on. It's all family that works there. So the owner, who's the son of the original owner, has said that they're only open Wednesday to Saturday or Wednesday to Sunday. So only like 4 days a week, and only at dinner from 6 to 9.
Okay. Do we blame DoorDash and all the delivery services for this?
Well,
Is
the
it part
delivery
of the problem?
services, I mean, they're still going to get sales out of that because people are ordering food to go if they
Okay.
order from them.
Okay.
People just aren't physically sitting in the restaurant.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, when you live in a neighborhood and that's your go-to spot, that's where you go.
Hmm.
The DoorDashes and all that make it easier. We can order from anywhere in the city, right? You don't have, because they're going to bring it to you. So maybe that is a slight possibility. But just going back to the original point, the pandemic hit a lot of people. I told you Badlands took forever to reopen. And of course, rents keep rising. So they have to force, as you said, it's going to mean paying either high wages, or we have a health tax here, which they've been charging for years. When you
Is
get
that to
your
cover
bill.
the cost of expenses, the health expenses for the workers that are there?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's the food or drink, there's sales tax, there's tip, and there's a health tax. And it's all lined out on the receipt. But, so that adds to your bill, my bill. And whether it's, in some cases, maybe the quality's gone down,
Okay.
the original chef has left. Some places may close because the owners are retiring and there's no one to pass it down to.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they go to sell it, no one really wants to buy it because they know how difficult it is. Here in San Francisco, with the new mayor, they're trying to get better, but the process of trying to open a new business, the paperwork, the red tape, the cost of it, right? And then what's happening now with the tariffs is that the cost of labor is going up. Materials is going up. So if you're going to buy a place and need to renovate it before you reopen it, you've got all those factors in place. And it's going to take longer than you expected. It's going to cost a lot more than you expected. And you really have to have a lot of money to be able to do that. So that's maybe more than they can chew, more they can bite off to try and do that. So the idea of trying to open a new business can be very daunting.
Yep. And I think, like, for example, I know that, historically in the Castro, and historically when, I lived when I lived in WeHo a long time ago, a lot of these businesses that were around for a long time were owned and, like we said, they were institutions of local places to meet for anyone. And I think the people have aged out of owning these buildings anymore. And the other thing that's come out of this is the fact that when the LGBTQ plus community goes and embraces an area or a location like the Castro or like West Hollywood in WeHo, what happens is a lot of gentrification takes place, and it improves because the nightlife is good, the restaurants do well, and it brings a lot of people in. And now with housing being an issue, people who are longtime owners of businesses who maybe own, there was one guy that owned a number of places in the Castro, I believe. They owned like a couple of bars like Badlands,
Yeah.
Patio, and all those things.
Right.
What happens is they own it for 30 years. They don't want to be in the business anymore. So they sell it to a developer because it's such a desirable neighborhood. So when I lived in LA and we had our instance back there, but that was back in gotta be the 90s, right? I think.
Yeah.
All of those places, there's a lot of them that are gone, but also it became such a great place to live for the community. And as I said, all the businesses were doing well. Well, now these building owners are selling to developers to create housing.
So they're tearing down what was a bar or
Yes.
restaurant and
Yes.
putting in condos.
Basically, yes. So it's the urban sprawl that's taking place. And I'm sure because, when we were living in the Castro, it was a very different area.
Yeah.
And now it's very gentrified. There's a lot of families with kids.
Right.
Right? And the businesses have shifted. The demographic has shifted. I'm going to say it's still supported by the LGBTQ plus community, but I'm sure there was an exodus there because it got so expensive, right?
Right.
Back in the days during the 70s and 80s, the Castro was inexpensive to live there, relatively for California. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a thing. But the same thing happened in WeHo. So there was a number of bars that have, gone down. When I used to live there were a couple down the street from where I used to live on Havenhurst and Santa Monica. And I could literally walk down the street or walk over to WeHo in 10 minutes. But I'm going to bet you, and I've done the research, like about 7 or 8 of them are no longer there.
Wow.
Yeah, so they've closed up a great deal. So you know that basically the gentrification and the housing industry has pushed a lot of these spaces out also.
Right.
And it's aging out. So it's one of these things. I wonder, you know, some places there are a couple that are thriving. I even have in Redondo Beach, there's a place down the street that is a queer space that we've been to that's really cute. We don't, honestly, I know maybe you and I have aged out of going to bars, really. I mean, I don't know. I would
Well,
go
if we
social.
were visiting with each other, we might do it just for fun,
Yeah, yeah,
but not like on a regular basis. Like I said, last September. So
yeah.
now, what, 6 months ago is the last time I've
Right.
stepped inside a bar.
Right. So, I mean, it's something, it is generational. I'm just interested to see how it continues because this is a trend. This is a financial trend that you can see taking place. WeHo is no longer the mecca that it used to be. It's basically a lot of place for people to come in as tourists and enjoy and leave. But the housing, you wouldn't believe what it looks like now because I was there a few weeks ago just driving through to go for some work thing and most everything's gone or has
Wow.
changed hands. So even one of the biggest places, let me look it up, it was Rage. Rage
Yeah.
was one of the biggest dance clubs you do there. It was purchased by Lance Bass about 4 years ago. It's one of the biggest dance clubs. It's been there forever.
Right.
Closed. Closed. Gone. No longer open. It was renamed Heart by him, and they were trying to keep it open. But again, the costs and the negotiations with the the landlord didn't go through. So basically, one of the biggest institutions has been closed.
Wow.
Yeah, so the other places that have gone basically was Flaming Saddles, which is a country bar. Gold Coast, which actually was down the street from me when I used to live there. Gym Bar, Oil Can Harry's was over in the valley, which was like a country western place, but that closed a number of years ago. Whiskey A Go Go, a basically straight or open place for anybody, which was an institution for live bands, gone.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I'm wondering where it's all going to go. There are some places in downtown LA that have made it. There's a place called Precinct, which is downtown LA. So basically, the community has kind of left WeHo for more desirable locations. I know Silver Lake is a huge location
Silver
for.
Lake, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard that it's quite a big
yeah.
draw.
So would you say the Castro is still the community it was, or do you feel like it? I know you just haven't been there much, but
Yeah, I mean, I had a haircut appointment this morning, and I got there early, so I walked around, and granted, it was before 10 o'clock, so
sure.
it's a morning on a weekday, so we're in the traffic. That didn't make an impression on me, although I heard that foot traffic is down. And I'll tell you why in a second. I was thinking, and I wrote down the names of the bars, many of which we went to and we used to hang out, like Badlands and Midnight Sun, Moby Dick, The Cafe, Toad Hall, Lookout. They're
Yeah.
all there in the edge. The Twin Peaks, right there in the corner. They're all there. And so none of those have closed. I did mention that Harvey's, which was on the corner of 18th and Castro,
I used to love that place.
yeah, because they had good food. You
Yeah.
can have a burger and sit at the window,
Hang one of your legs out of the window and have a
right?
hamburger and say, hey,
Right? And flirt with everyone going by.
right?
So that was one of our hangouts. I don't know the reason why it closed a few years ago, but there were about three gentlemen who were owners of other bars in the neighborhood who
Yep.
decided to join forces and like, hey, we're going to reopen Harvey's, maybe in a different name, I'm not sure. But they had to zhuzh it up, and the news was that it was going to open by Pride of, I want to say 2024.
Okay, really?
I think. And then, delays. When I walk by today, it's papered over and there's no signage whatsoever about coming soon, opening in July. Whatever. It doesn't, there's no activity, no movement. So what happened? I don't know.
Huh.
But, and then with the others that are still around that we used to go to, as I mentioned, it's just, they don't have the crowds and I don't know how they stay open.
Yeah, and I think, back to the oldie moldy discussion, because, that was a place that, the traditional community felt safe. It was their haven. They would go to these places. I don't believe that the community feels that way anymore. It's like the world has opened up, and maybe that could be a good thing that it's not all sequestered. But I know that people still would like to go to a place where they feel safe, accepted, because not everybody's in the same place.
I think when tourists come to San Francisco, and if they're queer or in the in the family, as I say. And if never been, they'll want to go check it out. You're still going to get the vibe. There's the fun stores and there's the different restaurants and bars. You're still going to get that feeling. It's just not what it used to be.
Right.
And they're still going to find their fun. But I mentioned about foot traffic. There were two ice cream places, which ice cream are like, you think they're always going to be popular because whether it's hot or not, people are going to want ice cream.
Yeah.
That one, they were on the same street, just on one block away, and they closed one after the other.
Really?
And when they interviewed one of the owners, he said, "Oh, because foot traffic has been down." I'm like, if you can't make it and I don't know how difficult it is, but it's like, it's not, that could be where the rent was too much for them to sustain. If they don't have people coming in,
I think
could have been a factor.
I think that's a huge factor for many of these buildings or these businesses or institutions, is that the rents have gone through the roof because developers are willing to pay top dollar for real estate to develop into housing. And that's what I see. Obviously they're not going to put a Target in the middle of Castro, but they are going to put a lot more franchises that are profitable and a lot less mom and pop businesses or independent businesses.
There's a few chains of it, like one of the ice cream places closed was Double Rainbow. So that's
Really?
a chain. Yeah.
Huh.
It was on the same block of the Castro Theater.
Yeah.
Right next to Hot Cookie.
I remember
Hot Cookie's still there.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, but Double Rainbow next door is gone. And then a place we used to frequent a lot was Cafe Floor. Which was more of a cafe.
Yes,
for
but it's
brunch
definitely
and
a
for
meeting
dinner.
place.
They had indoor and outdoor seating. So they had a bar, but it wasn't. No, it was more of a restaurant cafe. But indoor and outdoor seating on a beautiful day. You sit outside. It closed for many years, and then it reopened as like a seafood restaurant because the word fish is somehow in the title. It looks nice, but again, I'm just like the bars. I just don't see the people hanging out. And so it could pricing.
Yeah.
On the bright side, when I was walking around this morning after my haircut, do you remember there was a very popular restaurant back in the day that the name of the restaurant was the street address, which was 2223
Yes.
Market Street.
That was an amazing place when it first opened. Yes.
We went there all the time.
Yes. Fancy.
Great food, great service, great bar, many, many, many meals there. And why they closed many years ago, I don't know. But since then, there's been umpteen different restaurants going in, and they just don't last.
Okay.
But today, when I walk by, there was a sign that it's coming soon. It's called Ricky's, RIKKI''S.
Okay.
And on the window, it says a lesbian sports bar.
Huh.
I thought that is so cool.
That is great. And that's a big space, isn't it?
It is a big space.
Yes.
So I'm sure they'll make the restaurant part more kind of a loungy area. They keep the bar as is, but the rest just kind of a lounge area. And maybe they'll have performances there or something. I don't know. But it's a sports bar, so I guess they'll put up TVs and
Sure.
Games and as a lot of bars, like a couple of doors down, there's High Top, which is a sports bar.
Yeah.
Where you're on a baseball team or a soccer team, and after the game, everyone goes and hangs out.
Wasn't it pretty popular though? Isn't it still popular?
High Tops, I think, is still pretty popular. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And that's been around for a while.
Good. So there are some nuggets of good news out there.
But being that we started this episode about how lesbian bars are doing, you said there's only 30 in the whole country.
That's what I read in the country.
I read that too.
Yes, so it's kind of an alarming number, and I'm not sure why they're singling out that, but I think because of the statistic, that's why it came to the news or to the front of the news, because that's a very low number if you think about the country.
Oh my God, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of like what the impetus for this discussion in this episode was when, in the very beginning, when you sent me that article about the business that had been open for so many years.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that was kind of concerning, and that's kind of where we went down this rabbit hole of discussions with queer spaces and also, like, bar none. That's why I kind of came up with that. It's like, are there going to be social spaces? But again, to add to your good news nuggets, there is, I took from an article on Eater magazine, which is basically an online subscription magazine.
Yeah.
There was a gentleman who was interviewed. His name is Gregor Mattson, and it's a book called Who Needs Gay Bars, basically. And he was thinking, like, there are places where they're embracing community, embracing the LGBTQ plus queer space. And this is not just about that, audience, just so you know. This is about any space, any bar, any restaurant. So we're talking about the challenges there. But what he was saying was that some of the bars down in downtown LA, like Precinct and Akbar, actually embrace the community and make a very strong stand for maintaining these spaces that have to stay open
Right.
to support the community. They have drag shows, they have open mic nights, they have different performance nights, but also definitely protect it. Something that they're not ashamed of doing anymore is to ask for donations. So the bars who used to just, because if you think about it, we're talking about most bars obviously make all their money from the booze or the liquor or alcohol they sell.
Right.
So what's good is they've gotten past the point where it's okay to say, you know what, we need donations to keep open. So that's good. So it's good to hear that those places are thriving down in downtown LA. You've got your places that are doing well, and I'm excited. You have to keep us informed about the place that's opening where 2223 used to be.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they'll let me in, but
Yeah, they will. Of course, it's inclusive. That's what the community needs to do. And the place down the street that we have over here, when I went, it was amazing to see. I was very encouraged to see, because we went and met a couple of our friends over there, and they were having a night for all of the local SpaceX is actually down from us. And they had all of the people that were from SpaceX and from, I forget what the other, Northrop Grumman and all these other people that do basically technology for space travel. And they all came to that bar, and there was a huge representation of trans people, of all LGBTQ plus people, plus diversity. There was that, because again, I think that's important to make sure that the community is inclusive of everyone, no matter who you are, where you find your place on the flag, whatever color you're believing in or supporting. So that's actually another piece of good news. I think the world's not going to come to an end right away, but it's been a challenging time for queer spaces.
yeah.
Right?
Can I take a slight right turn?
Absolutely. Pivot. We
Well,
like to
because
pivot.
we started talking about lesbian, so I'm going to put
Oh,
up
yeah, let's
another lesbian.
keep going. We love lesbian.
So in social media, this came up, I think yesterday, and I thought it was just a little interesting because of the way the title of the article. So the story is about Billie Jean King, famous tennis star who's retired.
Oops, sorry.
Do they know Billie Jean King?
They must
Have
be
met?
fans.
Now, granted, the publication is called Pink Times or Pink News.
Okay.
So it's doing stories on the LGBTQ community. But it starts with lesbian tennis legend Billie Jean King. And that's the first thing I noticed. Like, why do you need to start with that? Why can't it just be tennis legend Billie Jean King?
Right.
Okay. But it says the first woman to receive Hollywood Walk of Fame star in new category. It's like Hollywood Walk of Fame. She's a tennis legend.
She's a celebrity, right?
Well, I didn't read the article, but I just caught the headline because it's the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which is Hollywood, so therefore
Right.
television and movies. I mean, for the tennis legends, there is a sports Hall of Fame. There's a tennis Hall of Fame where she can have her statue or her whatever. But I thought it was just interesting that lesbian tennis legend Billie Jean King is first woman to receive Hollywood Walk of Fame star in a
Good.
category. I just thought that was a little interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure because at the Palm Springs Walk of Fame, they have those stars all over there too. I think I've seen Martina Navratilova is there for sure. I bet you Billie Jean King is there too. I bet.
Probably.
Because they have the tennis matches out there too.
But Palm Springs, I mean, it's very gay. So I can see why. I can see their names fitting in there,
Yes.
nicely.
Yes.
But it just threw me, the Hollywood Walk of Fame part threw me.
Yeah.
Just only because I don't consider her Hollywood. Consider her sports,
No, I hear you.
athlete, so anyway. So it
Absolutely.
was just a little something that caught my eye. And I had to blabber about it.
Okay, well, that's really good news. So there is light at the tunnel. There's still a strong, a strong presence of these queer spaces and communities. And of course, we did dive into the fact that it was not based just on LGBTQ plus bars, but the statistics were coming to us from those. And we saw, as we said, we're going to have maybe a memorial right now as I scroll here with the bars that are no longer with us. But we love them and have fond memories of all those places. Is Cafe still open?
The cafe, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay,
Short
good.
lines, if any. But yes, it's still.
So are we good? Do you think we
I think
covered
we're
it?
good.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for bringing that. I'll definitely put the liner notes of where you got your sources from for that article because I want people to be able to read that.
Sure.
And I'm going to put the same sources for where I got my statistics and my information from that article on Eater Magazine. So I thought that'd be a good way for us to roll in our big announcement for the
Oh,
end.
I've been waiting. Okay, go ahead.
So the good news, everyone, is that we are going to be dropping a brand new website from Podpage. So I just really wanted to shout how great they were, how great the platform is. So again, we'll be launching information for our website. The good news about the website is that it's so accessible. All you need to do is go to the website itself, and I will put the address right here and let people see that you can go to it. What I love about it is that we're going to have a blog on there. You can access all of our episodes, of course. You can also go in and leave us a review, which will go directly to either Spotify or to Apple Podcasts, and it will be posted there. You can also join our emailing list. And the best part is that you could leave voicemails. So we're going to be really pushing for all of you to actually leave us reviews. And also what I think would be really great is if we can get you to get on there and leave us voicemails, either with comments about the show, telling me how handsome I look and how young I am. Or you could leave some stuff for Gary too if you wanted to. Just yet, so what I'm looking forward to is the next episode. Maybe we'll do a quick tutorial just to show you the website itself, how to access it. It's super easy, and we're going to really hold your feet to the fire to leave us comments and leave us voicemails. So I'm very excited about that.
But there's no pressure.
No pressure. No pressure. So again, can I shut us down? Are we good?
Yeah, shut us
Okay,
down.
good. Well, thank you for joining Don and Gary Doing 60. Please join us next time as we navigate the deep waters of getting older and trying to remove the splinters from the windmills of our mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dramatic.
Yeah, so I've got a bunch of these written down, so I'm excited. Don't forget, you can find us on Don and Gary Doing 60 on Instagram. You can look at us on YouTube at Pfeiffer Pod, Don and Gary Doing 60. You can email us at donandgarydoing60@gmail.com. The website's coming, so don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, Gary. That was fun. I learned a lot, actually, from what you were sharing with us,
Oh,
too.
good.
So
I'm glad. Yeah, it was
look at
fun.
that. Good. So, are we good?
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, you look great.
But it's the haircut.
I know. I gotta go take mine off and wash it in the dishwasher in just a second. So it's good talking to you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, you take care.
Bye.
Bye.